You know that feeling when the lights go down, the screen lights up, and you're just gone into another world?
Oh, yeah?
Whether it's some nail-biting drama or a comedy that makes you ache from laughing or, I don't know, a huge sci-fi thing, it all starts somewhere, doesn't it?
It does. It starts with words on a page,
Mhm.
just black and white text.
But how do those words, turn into what we actually see and hear? How does that transformation happen?
Well, it's not exactly magic. Not really. It's more like a specific language, a visual grammar,
Oh,
almost.
okay.
It lets the writer communicate their story not just as, like, a novel, but as a blueprint, instructions for everyone else.
The director,
Right,
actors.
the director, the actors, production designer, editor, the whole team.
Hmm.
And that language, that whole system, it really starts with screenplay formatting.
Absolutely. It's like the universal handshake, isn't it? The standard everyone expects.
It is.
And today, we're really going to dive deep into some source material that's aimed right at beginners. We want to cut through all the noise and just pull out the essential rules you absolutely need to get this.
Yeah, our mission here is basically to unpack the core bits of formatting, pull out those key nuggets of knowledge that make a script readable, understandable, professional.
Right.
It's about getting that technical backbone solid so the creative story can actually shine through.
Because look, getting this formatting right, it isn't just about being tidy, is it?
No, not at all.
It's the very first impression you make. It tells a reader, okay, this person gets it, they understand the industry, they're serious, and crucially, you're making it easy for them.
Exactly. Easy for them to do their job, which is figuring out if they like your story.
Yeah, if the formatting's good, their focus stays on the narrative, the characters, the ideas, not on trying to figure out what the heck is going on with the layout.
Think of it like learning the rules of perspective before you start painting
Um,
or color mixing. It might feel a bit rigid at first, these rules, but they're essential if you want to build something that lots of people can collaborate on.
yeah.
Um, the sources actually mention a tool, TwelvePoint,
Oh,
which
yes.
is apparently designed to help automate a lot of these formatting rules. So for beginners, it can handle some of the technical stuff, letting you focus more on the actual writing.
That's helpful. Okay, so let's imagine we've got that blank page, metaphorical or literal, and start building this blueprint piece by piece.
Yeah.
Where do we start? Even before page one of the story.
Right. You start with the title page.
Okay.
This is essentially your script's cover letter. It needs the script title big and centered. And then your name and contact info, usually tucked down in the lower right corner.
Simple, but yeah, pretty critical. It's literally how they know whose brilliant script this is and how to call you when they love it.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the source notes, you can add optional stuff too, like maybe your agent's details if you have one, or a copyright notice. But the basics are title and contact. It's all about looking professional right from the jump.
Makes sense. Okay, so title page done. Now we flip past that and we're into the script proper, the actual layout of this page. It suddenly matters a lot, doesn't it?
Hugely.
Let's talk about the basics, like a canvas, margins, and font. Our source material is very specific here.
Yeah, it really drills down on this. It dictates 12-point Courier font
Yeah.
and 1-inch margins on all four sides. Top, bottom, left, right.
Okay, 1-inch margins. That seems straightforward. Clean look, professional. But Courier 12, it always feels so, I don't know, typewritery, retro. Why is that still the standard?
Well, there's a very practical industry reason for that. Courier is what's called a monospaced font.
Monospaced, meaning.
Every single character, again, a period, takes up the exact same amount of horizontal space on the line.
Okay, and why does that matter?
Because that consistent spacing is absolutely crucial for page count predictability. There's this long-standing rule of thumb in the industry. It's not like exact science, but it's close enough
Yeah.
that one page of a properly formatted script roughly equals 1 minute of screen time.
Whoa, okay, so the font actually helps predict the runtime just by looking at the number of pages.
Pretty much, yeah. It gives producers, directors, ADs, everyone, a quick way to estimate the length, the budget implications, the shooting schedule, all based on the page count. It's a functional thing.
That makes so much more sense now. It's not aesthetic, it's practical estimation.
Exactly. And it kind of forces a certain writing style, too. You know,
Mhm.
you have to be concise. You can't just ramble on with dense paragraphs if you want to stay near that page-a-minute guideline.
Right, keeps things tight. Okay, practical layout. Speaking of practical, once the script gets long, you need to find your way around.
Which brings us neatly to page numbers, essential for just basic navigation and referencing.
Where do those go? I always see them somewhere.
Top right corner, every single page.
Right.
And importantly, they don't start on the title page. That's page 0. effectively.
Ah,
Page numbering starts on the first page of the actual script text after the title page. Number 1, 2, 3, sequentially from there.
got it. So if the director yells, let's pick it up from page 45, everyone can clip right there, no confusion.
Precisely. Keeps everyone on the same well page.
Okay. So we've got the page itself, sorted margins, font, page numbers. Now we start putting the story onto that page. What's the first thing we usually see at the top of a new scene?
That would be the scene heading, also known as a slug line.
Slug line.
These are like super condensed bits of information,
Well,
critical shorthand. They tell the reader and the whole production team where and when the action is happening, instantly.
and the format's quite strict for those, isn't it?
Very strict. Always starts with INT for interior or EXT for exterior.
Inside or outside?
Yep. Then the specific location like kitchen or dusty attic or spaceship bridge.
Okay.
And finally, the time of day, usually just day or night. Sometimes you might see specifics like dawn or later, but day-night are the workhorses.
So, example from the source. INT, cafeteria day. Boom, you see it, you know you're inside, it's a cafeteria, it's daytime.
Exactly. Sets the stage in, what, 4 words. Incredibly efficient for visualizing.
And you mentioned tools like 12Point can help with these.
Yeah, many screenwriting apps, 12-point included apparently, have drop-down menus or autocomplete for these. int.ext, common locations, day-night, speeds things up.
Nice. Okay, we know where we are. Now, what's happening? What are we seeing and hearing?
That's the job of the action descriptions, sometimes just called action lines or description.
Right.
This is basically everything the audience sees and hears that isn't dialogue.
Yeah.
It's the visual and auditory information.
And there are rules for writing this too, I bet.
Oh yeah. Key rules. Always write in the present tense. Use the active voice, not passive. Be concise. And this is crucial. Only write what can actually be seen or heard by the audience.
Ah, so the classic show don't tell is literally baked into the format.
Absolutely. You can't write, Bob felt angry. That's telling. You have to show it. Bob slams his fist on the table, or Bob's jaw tightens. The source gives an example like, Sarah opens the door, revealing a cluttered room with dusty shelves and old books. You can picture that immediately, right? It's visual.
Yeah, totally.
And that constraint, only writing what's perceivable through camera or microphone, it actually forces you as a writer to think more visually.
Yeah.
How do I show this emotion? How do I convey this information through action or sound?
That's a really great point. The limitation actually breeds creativity in the right medium.
Okay.
Okay, so we've set the scene, described the action. Usually people start talking then.
Which brings us to character names and dialogue. Probably the element people think of first with scripts.
How's that laid out?
It's designed for clarity, especially for actors finding their lines quickly during read-throughs or rehearsals. The character's name appears centered on the page, usually in all caps.
Okay.
And then their dialogue, what they actually say, appears directly underneath that name, indented slightly.
Pretty straightforward. But sometimes you see little notes kind of tucked in parentheses within the dialogue block.
All right, those are parentheticals, sometimes called Rileys more informally.
Parentheticals. Okay. What's their job?
They're optional notes, always in parentheses. They give you while speaking. Things like smiling or whispering or to herself.
Is it a little flavor or clarification?
Exactly. Now, are those different from what are sometimes called directions? I feel like I see those used sometimes too.
Yeah, they're slightly different, though related. Directions tend to describe a more significant piece of action that a character takes just before or maybe while speaking, but it's not purely about the delivery of the line itself.
Ah, okay.
You might see something like the character name, then on the next line in parentheses, maybe crossing to the window, and then their dialogue starts below that.
I see. So parentheticals are within the dialogue block about delivery, and directions are more like stage directions tied closely to the speaking.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But the absolute key piece of advice from the source for both parentheticals and these directions is critical.
What's that?
Use them sparingly. Really sparingly. Why is that? Don't they add useful detail?
They can, but only if they clarify something essential that isn't already obvious from the context, the action lines, or the dialogue itself.
Ah.
If you overuse them, a few things happen. You clutter the page, making it harder to read, and you risk stepping on the toes of the director and the actor. You start telling them how to perform the role, which isn't really the screenwriter's job.
Right, their job is interpretation based on the text.
Exactly. So the goal is just to enhance expression or clarity when absolutely necessary, not to micromanage the performance or just state the obvious. Less is definitely more.
Got it. Use sparingly. Okay, so we're moving through the script, scene by scene. Sometimes you need to signal a clear break or shift between scenes, right? More than just a new slug line.
Yep, that's where transitions come in. These are specific formatting cues.
Like the classic CUT2.
Yay. Exactly. That's the most common one. Or fade in, usually at the very beginning, and fade out, often at the end of a sequence or the entire script. There are others like dissolve to, but they're used less often these days.
Where do they usually go on the page?
Typically, they're placed over on the right-hand side of the page, aligned to the right margin, often just before the next scene heading.
And are they always necessary between scenes?
Not strictly, no. New slug line usually implies a cut, but transitions like CTTO can add emphasis, control pacing, or make a specific point about the juxtaposition of two scenes. FAD out E obviously signals a more significant ending.
Okay, so another tool in the toolkit, used when needed. We've covered a lot of individual pieces here. The page itself, the scene headings, action, dialogue, parentheticals, transitions. But pulling it all together consistently feels like the big challenge.
It is. And that brings us to maybe the most important principle overarching all of this, consistency.
Just doing everything the same way every time.
Precisely. Once you decide how you're going to format, say, your scene headings, int.ext, location time, you must format them exactly the same way every single time they appear. Same goes for action description style, character name capitalization, dialogue indentation, everything.
Why is that so non-negotiable? What happens if you're a bit sloppy with it?
Well, inconsistency is just a massive red flag for any professional reader, an agent, a producer, a script reader.
Why?
It immediately suggests a lack of attention to detail, maybe a lack of understanding of the basic craft. And honestly, it's just distracting. It pulls the reader out of the story because they're noticing the weird formatting.
Right, you want the format to be invisible, almost.
Exactly. A polished professional script maintains that uniformity from page one
Right.
right through to the end. It should just flow. And again, this is where software like TwelvePoint really helps because the templates and features are designed specifically to enforce that consistency for you almost automatically.
So looking back at all these elements, from the very specific margins and font defining the page, to the slug lines and action building the world, the dialogue giving characters voice, it really is about creating this clear, predictable structure, isn't it?
It really is. It's a technical framework, yes, but it's the framework that allows your creative vision to be clearly understood, communicated, and then hopefully built upon by a whole team of collaborators.
It feels like it truly is the language of collaboration for film and TV.
I think that's a great way to put it. Mastering these rules, it isn't just about following some arbitrary instructions someone made up. It's about learning how to speak the language the industry uses to turn ideas into moving pictures.
It's the foundation, the technical side, that actually enables the creative magic we see on screen.
Absolutely. It's what allows your story to make that leap from page to production.
Which leads me to a final thought, maybe something for you, the listener, to mull over. We talked about how these formatting constraints, the specific font, that page per minute thing, only writing what we see or hear, how they might feel kind of rigid or limiting at first. But if this format, this structure, is the necessary canvas for visual storytelling, does working within those boundaries actually, maybe paradoxically, push writers? Does it force you to think more visually, more economically, maybe even more cinematically than you would otherwise?
That's interesting.
Could it be that the structure itself doesn't just contain the story, but actually helps sculpt it, potentially making the storytelling stronger precisely because of the limitations? Something to think about as you start applying these rules yourself.